The return began quietly. No massive fleet bursting through the barriers, no declarations of war. Just small things that the council races couldn't explain. On a Zalathi colony world, a disease that had killed thousands suddenly stopped. The dying. Plants began to grow again. Children who had been sick for years woke up healthy. The colonists praised their gods, never knowing that a human medical ship had released healing nanobots into their atmosphere during the night. In Krek's space, a pirate fleet that had terrorized merchants for decades simply disappeared. The merchants found the pirates' ships floating empty, their weapons destroyed, their crews left unconscious but unharmed on a nearby moon. The Krek's military took credit, though they had no idea what had really happened. On Vexar Prime, the power grid that had been failing for years suddenly worked perfectly. Energy flowed without loss. Machines that hadn't functioned in decades came back to life. The Vexari celebrated their engineers, who were just as confused as everyone else. Captain Diana Lee watched it all from her cloaked ship. Phase 1 complete, she reported to Admiral Harrison. We've helped them without them knowing. Now for Phase 2. The first visible contact came at a remote trading station between Vexari and Krek's space. A ship appeared that looked like nothing. In the Council database. Smooth, organic curves. No visible weapons. It seemed to shift between dimensions, sometimes solid, sometimes translucent. The station commander, a Vexari named Hex, sent out a standard greeting. Unknown vessel. Identify. Yourself and state your business. We are humans, came the reply. We have returned. Hex's crystalline form flashed in shock. Impossible. Humans are dead. They were exiled to the dead zone 800 years ago. We survived. We evolved. And now we've come home. The news spread through council space like wildfire. Humans had returned. The impossible had happened. Something had survived the dead zone. The council called an emergency session. The same chamber where humanity had been exiled now filled with panicked representatives. The Vexari hegemon, descendant of the one who had condemned humanity, pulsed with fear. Send the fleet, he ordered. Destroy them before they can invade. With respect, hegemon, said the Krek's general, one ship is hardly an invasion. One ship is how it starts, the Zalathi representative rustled. Remember how violent they were. They've had 800 years to plan their revenge. Before anyone could respond, Ambassador Patricia King walked into the chamber. She didn't use the door. She simply stepped out of thin air, as if space itself had folded to let her through. The guards raised their weapons, but the weapons wouldn't fire. The energy shields around the council members flickered and died. Patricia stood in the center of the chamber, alone and unarmed, yet somehow the most powerful being in the room. Hello? She said calmly. I've come to talk. The Vexari hegemon tried to speak with authority, but his voice shook. You cannot be here. The barriers, the dead zone. The barriers haven't held us for centuries, Patricia said. We've been free to leave for the last 500 years. We chose to stay. To grow, to become something better. Lies. The Krek's general roared. His forearms reached for weapons that suddenly weren't there. The barriers cannot be broken, Patricia smiled. She touched a control on her wrist and the chamber filled with images. Human cities that floated in void. Ships the size of moons. Children playing in radiation that would kill any council race in seconds. Worlds transformed from dead rocks to gardens. A civilization that had grown from 50 million to 50 billion. We didn't break the barriers, Patricia explained. We learned to maintain them. From our side. We've been protecting you for centuries. Keeping things out that you never knew existed. Protecting us? The Zalathi representative asked. From what? Patricia showed them the devourers. The council members recoiled in horror at the images. Living ships that ate stars. Creatures from between galaxies that consumed everything in their path. They're coming, Patricia said. They'll be here in less than 50 years. Your weapons can't stop them. Your shields can't hold them. Your fleets would be destroyed in minutes. And you can stop them? The Vexari hegemon asked, his pride warring with fear. We already have. 17 times. While you sat here in your comfortable worlds, we fought them in the dead zone. We learned their weaknesses. We developed weapons that work. And now we're here to protect you again. Private Danny Brooks materialized beside Patricia. His armor was like nothing the council had seen. It seemed alive, shifting and adapting. The Krex general, driven by warrior pride, threw a punch at Danny with all 4 arms. Danny didn't move. The punches hit his armor and stopped. The general's hands broke. Danny reached out gently, and the general's hands healed instantly. We don't want to fight you, Danny said. We want to save you. Across the galaxy, more human ships appeared. Not attacking, just watching. When pirates struck, the humans stopped them. When disasters happened, the humans helped. When diseases spread, the humans cured them. The council tried to attack. A fleet of 1,000 Vexari ships fired on a single human cruiser. The weapons did nothing. The human ship's shields didn't even flicker. Then the human ship responded, not with weapons, but with a pulse that disabled every Vexari ship without harming a single life. Please stop trying to kill us. The human captain broadcasted. We're trying to save your lives. On the Krex homeworld, their greatest warrior challenged a human to single combat. The human accepted. The fight lasted 3 seconds. The human moved so fast the Krex couldn't see him. But instead of killing the warrior, the human helped him up and healed his wounds. You fight with honor, the human said. But you fight with techniques that are 3,000 years old. Let us teach you new ways. The Zalathi tried biological warfare, releasing spores that had killed entire species. The humans absorbed them, analyzed them, and sent back a cure for every disease the Zalathi had, including the blight that was killing their worlds. Your biological knowledge is impressive, the humans messaged, but you've stopped learning. Let us show you what we've discovered. Fear turned to confusion. Confusion turned to wonder. The humans weren't conquering. They weren't destroying. They were helping. Dr. Ruth Anderson appeared before the Zalathi Council of Elders. At 500 years old, she looked like a young woman. Her body had been enhanced to process photosynthesis like the Zalathi, and she glowed with soft green light. Your people are dying, she said gently. Not from disease, but from stagnation. You've stopped evolving. Nature has a rule: evolve or die. We can help you evolve without losing who you are. She showed them the cure, not just medicine, but a new way of thinking, combining Zalathi biological mastery with human adaptability. Within days, dying forests began to bloom again. General Sam Cooper met with the Krex military command. He stood 12 feet tall, his enhanced muscles visible even through his uniform. But he spoke with respect. You are warriors, he said. We honor that. But you fight the same wars the same way your ancestors did. The universe has moved on. New threats require new strategies. He showed them recordings of humans fighting devourers, combat in 17 dimensions, weapons that unmade matter at the quantum level, strategies that turned the enemy's strength against them. Teach us, the Krex general said, his pride overcome by practical wisdom. On Vexar Prime, Tommy Chen appeared, in the hegemon's palace. His body flickered between dimensions, sometimes solid, sometimes energy, sometimes something in between. Your crystalline nature gives you advantages you've never explored, Tommy said. You could exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously. You could think at the speed of light. You've limited yourselves to what you've always been. He touched the hegemon's crystalline form, and for a moment, the Vexari saw the universe as Tommy saw it. 11 dimensions of reality, infinite possibilities, the music of creation itself. We could become this? The hegemon asked in wonder. You could become more, Tommy replied. Every race has unique gifts. Humanity's gift was adaptability. We can help you find yours. But not everyone accepted the return. A faction of Vexari, led by fundamentalists who believed in their racial superiority, launched a sneak attack on a human colony ship carrying families. The attack failed. The weapons passed through the ship as if it wasn't there. The ship phased into another dimension, let the attack pass, then phased back. Captain Lisa Park, commanding the colony ship, sent a message to the attackers. "We have children on board. You just tried to kill children. Our children. And we forgive you, but please don't try again." The warning was clear. Humanity had the power to destroy anyone who threatened them. But they chose mercy instead. It was more terrifying than any threat could have been. 800 years after the exile, Grand Admiral Luke Harrison stood on the command deck of humanity's greatest warship, the Phoenix Eternal. The ship was 50 kilometers long, powered by 3 captured stars, and could destroy a planet with a single shot. But it also carried hospitals that could cure any disease, schools that could teach any subject, and gardens that could feed 1 billion people. Around him, the return fleet gathered. 50,000 ships, each one a miracle of engineering. The smallest scout ship could defeat the Council's greatest battleship. The largest could move moons. "All ships report ready, Admiral," said Commander Sophie Grant. She was what humanity had become after 8 centuries in the forge, 8 feet tall, with skin that could survive in space, eyes that saw in 20 spectrums, and a mind that could process information faster than any Council computer. Luke nodded. He was even older, one of the few who remembered stories from his grandparents about the exile. His body had been enhanced so many times that he was more machine than flesh, but his heart remained human. "Begin the final scan of Council space," Luke ordered. The scanners, using technology stolen from the precursors and improved by human innovation, showed everything. Every ship, every planet, every life form in the galaxy appeared on the massive display. "The Council races continue to decline," reported Dr. Nina Torres from her science station. "Vixari population down 12% from last century. Krex birth rates at historical lows. The Zalathi. Admiral, the Zalathi will be extinct within 50 years at current rates." Luke studied the data. The mighty Galactic Council that had exiled humanity was dying. Not from war or disaster, but from their own stagnation. They had stopped growing, stopped learning, stopped evolving. And nature had a simple rule: evolve or die. "What about their defenses?" Luke asked. "Pathetic," said General Matt Robinson, head of military intelligence. "Same shield technology they had 800 years ago, same weapons, same strategies. A single one of our destroyer-class ships could disable their entire fleet without killing anyone." "Which is exactly what we might have to do," Luke said. "They won't welcome us back, they'll see us as invaders." On Haven, President Kevin Phillips met with the Council of Humanity one last time before the return. The council chamber was a sphere, floating in space with walls that showed every human world in the forge. 50 billion humans on 10,000 worlds, all looking to this moment. "We have the power to conquer," Kevin said. "But we choose to protect. We have the strength to destroy, but we choose to build. We have every reason for revenge, but we choose forgiveness. This is what makes us human." Senator Rebecca Adams, whose family traced back to the original exiles, stood to speak. "The precursor machines have shown us the truth. The Devourers will arrive in less than a century. Without us, every race in the galaxy will die. We return not as conquerors, but as saviors." "But they won't see it that way," warned General Cooper. "The Council will think we've come for revenge. They'll attack us." "Then we show them mercy," Kevin replied. "We disable their weapons without killing. We protect them even as they try to destroy us. We prove that humanity has evolved beyond the need for vengeance." In the deepest part of Haven, Tommy Chen, now the greatest precursor interpreter humanity had, communed with the ancient machines. His body flickered between dimensions as he touched minds with the long-dead race. "The final tests await," the machines whispered in his mind. "Not tests of strength or intelligence, but of character. Can you forgive those who wronged you? Can you save those who wanted you dead? Can you lead without conquering?" "We can," Tommy replied. "We will." The machines pulsed with something like approval. "Then you are ready. The barriers will open for you. But know this. The moment you return, The Devourers will sense the galaxy. They will accelerate their approach. You will have less time than you think. Captain Diana Lee led the scout fleet through the barrier first. Her ship, the Silent Watcher, phased through dimensions the Council couldn't perceive. She appeared in Council space like a ghost, invisible to their sensors. What she saw made her sad. The great trade routes were nearly empty. Planets that had once held billions now had only millions. The mighty fleets that had enforced the exile were rusted and obsolete. It's worse than we thought, Diana reported back through the quantum communicator. They're not just stagnating, they're dying. Some colonies have already been abandoned, others have regressed to primitive technology. Any signs they know we're coming? Asked Admiral Harrison. None. Their sensors can't detect us. We could put a ship right next to their capital and they'd never know. The preparation for return took on new urgency. Humanity wasn't just returning to save the Council from the Devourers. They were returning to save them from themselves. Dr. Ruth Anderson, now 500 years old but still vital, led the medical fleet preparation. They loaded ships with cures for every disease the Council races suffered from. Genetic modifications that could save the Zalathi, mental treatments that could reinvigorate the Vexari, even simple food that could strengthen the weakening Kreks. We're not just bringing military aid, Ruth told her teams. We're bringing life itself. The Council races have forgotten how to grow. We'll remind them. Young soldiers trained in non-lethal combat. Every human warrior could kill with a thought, but they practiced restraint instead. Private Danny Brooks, descendant of the original exile warriors, could punch through a mountain, but he spent hours learning to fight without causing permanent harm. Remember, his instructor said, we're not trying to defeat them, we're trying to save them. Every Council soldier who attacks us is someone's parent, someone's child. We protect them even from themselves. The cultural preparation was just as important. Dr. Jennifer Taylor led teams that studied every Council race, learning their languages, their customs, their fears. Humanity would return not as strangers but as neighbors who understood. The Vexari fear chaos, Jennifer explained to the diplomatic corps. Show them that our evolution has brought order from chaos. The Kreks respect strength. Show them strength used to protect, not conquer. The Zalathi value harmony. Show them how diversity creates a greater harmony. As the final days approached, humanity made one last discovery. Hidden in the deepest precursor vault, they found a message. Not just data or technology, but a recording of the precursors themselves. The being in the recording looked almost human but taller, with eyes that held the wisdom of millions of years. It spoke in a language that Tommy Chen translated. To those who find this, know that you have passed where we failed. We fought the Devourers with force and lost. We tried to impose order through power and created only chaos. We could not forgive our enemies, so we became them. Learn from our mistakes. The universe does not need conquerors. It needs gardeners. It needs teachers. It needs protectors. It needs what you have become. President Phillips made the final announcement to all human space. Tomorrow we return. Not to the galaxy that exiled us, but to a galaxy that needs us. We go not as the humans they feared, but as the humans we have become. We go to face the greatest threat the galaxy has ever known. And we go to win, not through conquest, but through compassion. The human fleet gathered at the barrier. 50,000 ships carrying humanity's best. Soldiers who could destroy worlds but chose to protect them. Scientists who could rewrite reality but chose to heal it. Leaders who could rule through fear but chose to guide through example. As the first ship prepared to cross the barrier, Admiral Harrison sent a message to all human forces. 800 years ago, they sent us to die. Today, we return to ensure they live. This is our gift to those who wronged us. This is proof that humanity's greatest evolution was not our bodies or our technology. It was our hearts. The barrier began to open. After 8 centuries, humanity was coming home. The galaxy didn't know it yet, but their salvation was about to arrive. In the prosperous core worlds of the galaxy, life continued as it had for thousands of years. The Council races lived in peace, comfort, and complete ignorance of what was happening beyond the quantum barriers. On Vexar Prime, the crystal cities sang their eternal songs. The Vexari floated through their glass towers, their bodies shimmering with contentment. They had not invented anything new in 300 years. Why would they? Everything was perfect. The Vexari hegemon, grandson of the one who had exiled humanity, drifted through his palace. His crystalline form had grown fat with energy, pulsing with lazy colors. Another perfect day in our perfect empire, he hummed to his advisors. The quarterly reports, hegemon, said his assistant, a younger Vexari whose crystal body flickered with efficiency. Trade is stable, population is stable, everything is stable. As it should be, the hegemon replied. We have achieved perfection, unlike those chaotic humans we removed from the galaxy. If only he knew that at that very moment, a human scout ship was floating just outside his window, phased into a dimension the Vexari couldn't perceive. Captain Diana Lee watched the hegemon with eyes that could see through walls, through lies, through time itself. Lazy fools, Diana whispered to her crew. They haven't even upgraded their security in 3 centuries. We could take their entire planet without firing a shot. But we won't, reminded her second-in-command, Lieutenant John Martinez. We're here to protect, not conquer. Diana nodded. It was hard sometimes, seeing how weak the Council had become, not to think about how easy conquest would be. But that was the old human way. The Forge had taught them better. On the Krex homeworld, the warrior race continued their ritual combats. The same fights with the same weapons, following the same rules they had used for 5,000 years. General Krax's descendant, General Krix, watched the battles from his throne. Our warriors are the strongest in the galaxy, Krix boasted to his generals. No race could stand against the might of the Krex. Hidden in orbit, cloaked by technology the Krex couldn't imagine, Commander Pete Wilson watched the Krex warriors train. His enhanced muscles could bend steel like paper. His bones were harder than diamond. His reflexes were faster than lightning. Any human child in the Forge could defeat the Krex's greatest champion without breaking a sweat. Run the simulation again, Pete told his tactical officer. The computer ran a battle simulation, 1 human soldier against 1,000 Krex warriors. The human won in 12 minutes. And if we used our full capabilities? Pete asked. 43 seconds, sir. Pete shook his head. The Council races had no idea how vulnerable they were. They lived in a bubble of false security, protected only by the fact that humanity chose not to burst it. The Zalathi worlds were dying. Their plant-based civilization required perfect ecological balance, but they had forgotten how to maintain it. Entire forests were withering. Their birth rates had dropped by 90%. Within another century, they would be extinct. Ambassador Kelly Brown watched from her hidden observation post as the Zalathi Council met in their dying grand forest. They swayed and rustled, their leaf words falling like autumn rain. The blight spreads, said the eldest Zalathi, so old his bark was white as bone. We have tried everything except change, whispered a younger Zalathi, barely more than a sapling. Silence, rustled the elder. We are perfect as we are. We have been this way for 10,000 years. Kelly wanted to scream at them. The cure for their blight was so simple. A basic genetic modification that human children could design. But the Zalathi were too proud to admit they needed to evolve. Meanwhile, in the Forge, humanity continued to grow at an exponential rate. Cities floated in the void between stars. Entire worlds were transformed in months instead of centuries. Children were born who could manipulate matter at the quantum level with their thoughts. Dr. Carl Johnson's descendant, Dr. Marie Johnson, led the Precursor Research Division. She stood in a vast chamber filled with floating displays, each one showing a different precursor test. Test 67 complete, announced her assistant, a human who had chosen to exist as pure energy, appearing only as a glowing outline. We can now create stable wormholes to anywhere in the universe. Test 68 is beginning, Marie said. This one is different. The precursor machine before her was unlike the others. It was organic, alive, pulsing with a heartbeat that existed in 17 dimensions. When Marie touched it, she felt the universe open up before her. "I can see them," she gasped. "The council races. All of them. They're dying." The machine showed her the truth. Without growth, without challenge, without evolution, the council races were slowly fading away. Their populations were declining. Their spirits were dimming. They were committing slow suicide through stagnation. "Show me more," Marie demanded. The machine revealed the Devourer fleet, not just one or two, but thousands of them, approaching from the dark spaces between galaxies. They would arrive in 70 years. The Council's entire military might could not stop even one of them. "We have to return now," Marie said. "We can't wait any longer." President Eric White called an emergency session of the Human Senate. Representatives from every human world attended, some in person, some as holograms, some as quantum consciousnesses that existed everywhere and nowhere at once. "Dr. Johnson's discovery changes our timeline," Eric announced. "We have 70 years before the Devourers arrive. We need at least 20 years to prepare the council races for the fight. That means we must return within 50 years. We haven't completed all the tests," argued Senator Patricia King. "We might not be strong enough." "We're already stronger than anything in the galaxy," countered Admiral Katie Foster. "Every day we wait, more council citizens die from their own stagnation." A new voice entered the debate. It was Tommy Chen, now recognized as humanity's strongest link to the precursor machines. His body flickered between dimensions as he spoke. "Machines tell me something important," Tommy said. "The final tests aren't about power, they're about wisdom, about knowing when to act, about choosing others over ourselves. Returning now before we're fully prepared to save those who harmed us." That itself is a test. The vote was unanimous. Humanity would return in 1 year, giving them time to prepare but not wasting precious time the galaxy didn't have. Captain Roy Adams led the construction of the return fleet. Ships that could phase through dimensions, powered by captured stars, armed with weapons that could unmake matter itself. But more importantly, equipped with shields that could protect, medical bays that could heal any disease, and communication systems that could teach. "Every ship needs to be ready for both war and peace," Roy told his engineers. "We might have to fight the Council to save them. We need to be ready to disable their fleets without killing anyone." The transformation of humanity was not just physical or technological, it was spiritual. Children in the Forge grew up learning not just mathematics and science, but philosophy and compassion. They studied not just how to fight, but when not to fight. Little Emma Davis, only 10 years old, could solve equations that would have baffled Earth's greatest scientists. But her favorite class was Ethics of Power, where she learned that strength without mercy was just tyranny. "Why do we have to save them?" Emma asked her teacher. "They tried to kill us." Her teacher, a woman who remembered the exile, smiled. "Because that's what makes us human. Not our enhanced bodies or our advanced technology, but our choice to be better than those who wronged us." As the year of preparation continued, strange things began happening in Council space. Plagues that had killed millions suddenly stopped. Pirates that had terrorized trade routes disappeared. Broken machines started working again. The Council races noticed but couldn't explain it. They didn't know that human scouts were already among them, invisible, helping from the shadows. Every life saved, every problem solved, was practice for the greater salvation to come. On Haven, the capital of human space, the final preparations were being made. General Sam Cooper stood before the assembled military forces, 1,000,000 soldiers, each one capable of conquering a planet alone, stood at attention. "Remember your oath," Sam said. "We protect those who cannot protect themselves. We guide those who have lost their way. We forgive those who wronged us. We are not conquerors. We are guardians." The soldiers repeated the oath, their voices shaking, the very fabric of space. They were ready. Humanity was ready. The galaxy just didn't know it needed them yet. 300 years had passed since the exile. The dead zone now had a new name among humans, the Forge. It was where humanity was being reshaped into something the galaxy had never seen. Captain Ben Taylor's great-great-granddaughter stood where he once had. Admiral Sarah Taylor commanded the exploration fleet from the bridge of the New Horizon. She was nothing like the humans who had been exiled. 7 feet tall, with eyes that could see heat and radiation, muscles 3 times denser than old humans. She could survive in space for almost an hour without a suit. "Admiral, we found another precursor vault," reported Commander Alex Turner. He was 17 but had the knowledge of someone triple his age. Children in the Forge grew up fast. They had to. Sarah looked at the scan data. The vault was buried under a dead planet's surface, protected by energy fields that would have killed the original exiles instantly. But Sarah's generation could walk through those fields like they were air. "Take a team down," Sarah ordered. "Full documentation. The last vault gave us the dimension shift technology. Let's see what this one holds." The human population had exploded in the Forge. 50 million had become 50 billion. They lived on worlds the council races couldn't even visit. They built cities in space that floated in radiation fields. They turned dead rocks into garden worlds, using technology they discovered and improved. President Maria Rodriguez had been dead for 2 centuries, but her vision lived on. Her descendant, President Eric White, governed from Haven, the capital of human space. Haven was not a planet, but a structure, a ring world built around a star, with a surface area equal to 1,000,000 Earths. Eric stood in the council chamber of Haven, where representatives from 10,000 human worlds met. Some attended in person, some appeared as holograms, some had evolved beyond physical form and existed as pure consciousness in the network. "The latest reports from our Edge Scouts," Eric began. "The council races continue to stagnate. Same borders, same technology, same problems they had 300 years ago. While we grow stronger every day," said Senator Patricia King. She was what they called a void walker, humans who had adapted to live in deep space without any protection. Her skin was black like space itself, dotted with points of light like stars. "The question remains," Eric continued, "when do we return?" "We're not ready," said Dr. Nina Torres. She was the lead scientist on the Precursor project. "We've unlocked only 43 of the 100 tests the precursors left. Each test makes us stronger. We should complete them all before we return." "But the council races are dying," argued General Sam Cooper. "Their birth rates drop every year. Their colonies fail. They need us." "They exiled us," Patricia reminded them. "They wanted us dead. And that," Eric said, "is exactly why we must help them. To prove we are better than they thought. To show that humanity's greatest strength is not our power, but our mercy." In the deep spaces of the Forge, young humans trained in ways the Council could never imagine. Tommy Chin, descendant of the first child born in the Forge, could interface directly with precursor technology using only his mind. When he touched the ancient machines, they sang songs only he could hear. "The machines are trying to teach us," Tommy told his teacher, Dr. Ruth Anderson. She was 300 years old but looked 30. Humanity had conquered aging in their first century in the Forge. "Teach us what?" Ruth asked. "How to be worthy," Tommy said. His eyes glowed with a soft blue light when he connected to the machines. The precursors didn't disappear. They evolved. They became something beyond physical form. And they left these tests for whoever came after to see if anyone could follow their path. "And they think we can?" Tommy smiled. "The machines say no race has ever passed the first test before us. We've passed 43. They sing louder with each one we complete." The tests were not just puzzles or challenges. Each one changed humanity at a fundamental level. The first test had taught them to see in 11 dimensions. The 10th had shown them how to harness the power of black holes. The 20th had given them the ability to phase through solid matter. The 40th had let them touch the quantum foam that underlies reality itself. Captain Sandra Phillips led the Deep Guard, humanity's force that watched the edges of the Forge. They had a secret that only the highest levels of government knew. The forge was not a prison, it was a fortress, and something was coming. Contact on the edge sensors, her lieutenant reported. It's big. Bigger than anything we've ever seen. Sandra looked at the data. A ship, if it could be called that, the size of Jupiter. It was alive, made of some kind of organic metal that ate space itself. It was heading for the galaxy, and it would pass through the forge first. A devourer, Sandra whispered. She had read about them in the precursor records. Living ships from outside the galaxy that consumed everything in their path. The precursors had fought them and lost. Battle stations, Sandra ordered, and send a message to Haven. Humanity is about to face its first real test. The battle was unlike anything humanity had trained for. The Devourer ship ignored their weapons, absorbing the energy and growing stronger. It headed straight for Haven, drawn by the billions of life signs. Admiral Sarah Taylor took command of the defense fleet. 1,000 ships, each one more advanced than anything the Council had ever built, moved to intercept. But their weapons barely scratched the creature. "We're thinking about this wrong," Tommy Chen said. He was on Haven, connected to the precursor network. "It's not a ship. It's a living being. It's hungry, so we feed it," Eric asked. "No, we teach it that we're not food." Tommy's eyes blazed with blue fire. "The 44th test. I understand now. It's not about destroying your enemies. It's about changing them." Tommy reached out with his mind, through the precursor network, and touched the Devourer's consciousness. It was vast, alien, hungry beyond measure. But underneath the hunger was something else. Fear, loneliness. The Devourers ate because they were dying, trying to fill a void that could never be filled. "Hello," Tommy said to it. "You don't have to be hungry anymore." What happened next changed humanity forever. Tommy didn't fight the Devourer. He healed it. Using precursor knowledge, he showed it how to feed on dark energy instead of matter. How to sustain itself without destroying. The Devourer stopped. For the first time in millions of years, it was not hungry. It sang, a sound that vibrated through dimensions, a song of gratitude and joy. "The 44th test is complete," the precursor machines announced across human space. "Compassion for the enemy. Understanding instead of destruction. You have learned what we could not." The Devourer became humanity's ally. It told them about others of its kind, a whole fleet coming toward the galaxy. But it also told them something else. The Council races had no defense against what was coming. Without humanity, they would all die. Dr. Nina Torres made the discovery that changed everything. "The quantum barriers," she announced to the Senate. "We're not trapped by them. We're maintaining them. We have been for the last 100 years. "What?" Eric stood up in shock. "Our technology surpassed the barriers a century ago. We've been keeping ourselves in. We can leave whenever we want." "Then why haven't we?" Patricia demanded. "Because we weren't ready," Nina said. "But now with the Devourer threat coming, we have to be. The galaxy needs us." The vote was close but decisive. Humanity would return, not as conquerors, but as protectors. They would save the races that had exiled them. It was the most human thing they could do. Preparations began immediately. Ships were retrofitted with phase shift drives that could pass through the barriers without destroying them. Diplomatic packages were prepared, showing the Council what humanity had become. And most importantly, battle plans were drawn up for the Devourer fleet that would arrive in less than a century. Katie Foster, descendant of ancient Earth generals, took command of the return fleet. 50,000 ships, each one a masterpiece, of human engineering and precursor knowledge. The smallest scout ship could destroy a Council battleship. The largest could crack a planet. "Remember," Katie told her captains, "we go back not to conquer but to save. Not to rule, but to guide. We show them what they could become if they let go of their fear." In the depths of the forge, the precursor, machines activated all at once. Every human in the forge heard the message. "You have proven yourselves worthy. The forge has done its work. You entered as exiles. You leave as guardians. The galaxy needs you. Go and show them what humanity has become. Young Danny Brooks, training to be a soldier, asked his instructor a question that everyone was thinking. What if the Council tries to fight us? His instructor, a woman who had lived for 4 centuries and seen humanity's entire transformation, smiled. Then we show them mercy. We disable their weapons without killing. We protect them even as they attack us. We prove that humanity's greatest evolution was not our bodies or our technology. It was our hearts. The human fleet gathered at the barrier's edge. 50 billion evolved humans ready to return to a galaxy that had forgotten them. They were taller, stronger, smarter than the humans who had been exiled. But more importantly, they were wiser. The Forge had taught them that true strength came from compassion, true power from protection. As the first human ship prepared to pass through the barrier, Commander Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the colony ship, Freedom's last hope. Through the giant window, he watched Earth become smaller and smaller. The blue and green planet that humans had called home for millions of years was now forbidden to them. His hands held the metal rail so tight that his knuckles turned white. The trial had lasted only 3 days. 3 days to decide the fate of 50 million humans. 3 days to destroy everything humanity had built among the stars. It started with an accident. A human mining ship called the Denver had lost control near a Zalathi space station. The ship's engine exploded when it crashed into the station. 8,000 Zalathi died in the explosion. The human crew of 12 died too. It was a terrible accident, nothing more. But the Galactic Council did not see it that way. The Council was made up of 12 alien races. They had ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years. The Vexari were beings made of living crystal who spoke in musical tones. The Kreks were giant warriors with 4 arms and skin like rock. The Zalathi looked like walking plants with branches for arms and roots for feet. There were 9 other races, each stranger than the last. Humans had only been part of the galactic community for 50 years. 50 years of trying to prove they belonged. 50 years of following rules made by aliens who had never understood human nature. "Commander, all ships report ready," said Lieutenant Amy Walker. She was young, only 25, with short brown hair and steady hands. But Jake could see tears in her green eyes. Everyone was crying today, even if they tried to hide it. 10,000 ships filled with 50 million humans floated in space. Men, women, and children pulled from their homes on 100 different worlds. The Council had given them 1 week to gather everyone. 1 week to pack up centuries of dreams and hope. "Put the Admiral on all screens," Jake ordered. Admiral Lisa Chen appeared on every display in the fleet. She was 60 years old, but stood straight and strong. Her black uniform was perfect, every button shining. Her dark eyes burned with a fire that the Council could not put out. "My fellow humans," she began. Her voice reached every ship, every room, every heart in the fleet. "Today, the Galactic Council exiles us. They send us to the dead zone, a place where no civilization has ever survived. They expect us to die within a generation." She paused. Jake watched his crew lean forward, hungry for hope. "They are wrong," Lisa continued. "We are humans. Our ancestors survived ice ages with nothing but animal skins and fire. They survived plagues that killed millions. They survived wars that burned entire cities. They crossed oceans on wooden boats and flew to the moon in tin cans. We will survive this too." On the planet Vexar Prime, the Council watched the human fleet on their screens. The Council chamber was a massive dome made of crystal that sang when the wind blew through it. Each race had their own section designed for their specific needs. The Vexari hegemon glowed with satisfaction. His crystal body shifted from blue to purple as he spoke. "Finally, the dangerous humans will be gone. No more of their wars. No more of their chaos. The galaxy will have peace." "They brought this on themselves," said General Krax of the Kreks. His 4 arms crossed over his massive chest. "How many conflicts have they started? How many times have we warned them about their violent nature?" The Zalathi representative swayed like a tree in the wind. The mining ship incident was just the latest example. They cannot control themselves. They are too emotional, too unpredictable. Ambassador Kyle Roberts stood in the center of the chamber. He was the last human who would ever stand in this place. The council had given him 5 minutes to speak before the quantum barrier sealed humanity away forever. Kyle was 40 years old, with gray touching his brown hair. He had spent 20 years trying to build bridges between humanity and the council races. 20 years of work destroyed in 3 days. "You call us violent," Kyle said. His voice was calm, but his eyes were hard as stone. "Yet the Kreks have been fighting the same ritual wars for 3,000 years. You call us chaotic, yet the Vexari change their entire government every time their crystals sing a new tone. You call us dangerous, yet we have never destroyed an entire species like the Zelathi did to the Morphans." "Silence," the Vexari hegemon sang, his crystal body flashing red. "The decision is made. Humanity will enter the dead zone. The quantum barriers will seal behind you. No technology can break through them. No ship can pass them. You will never return." Kyle looked at each council member. He memorized their faces, their bodies, their arrogant certainty that they were right. "We will remember this day," Kyle said. "We will remember each of you. We will remember who stood against us and who said nothing. And when we return, and we will return, we will remember." The Kreks general laughed. "Return? Nothing returns from the dead zone. The radiation alone will kill half of you within a year. The lack of resources will kill the rest. You speak of returning? You will be lucky to last a decade." Kyle smiled. It was not a happy smile. It was the smile of a man who knew something others did not. Humanity has a saying, "What doesn't kill us makes us stronger." You haven't killed us. You freed us. No more council rules. No more restrictions on our technology. No more limits on what we can become. "Take him away," the Vexari hegemon ordered. Guards moved forward, but Kyle was already walking to the door. At the threshold, he turned back one last time. 50 million humans go into exile today, but billions more will return, and when they do, they will be something you cannot imagine. Thank you for setting us free. The quantum barriers were the Council's greatest creation, a wall of pure energy that surrounded the dead zone completely. Nothing could pass through them. No signal could penetrate them. Once humanity passed through, they would be cut off from the rest of the galaxy forever. The dead zone itself was a region of space that terrified every race in the Council. Strange radiation that killed most life forms. Planets with no atmosphere, no water, no hope. Stars that burned wrong colors and died too fast. It was a graveyard of space, where the laws of physics seemed broken. Jake watched the barrier approach. It looked like a wall of golden light that stretched from top to bottom of space itself. Beyond it lay the dead zone, dark and hostile. "All hands, prepare for barrier passage," Jake announced. His voice was steady. Someone had to be strong for the crew. The Freedom's last hope pushed through the barrier. Jake felt his skin tingle as they passed through. Then they were on the other side, in the dead zone. Behind them, the barrier sealed. When Jake looked back, he could see nothing but the golden wall. The rest of the galaxy was gone. "Radiation levels are increasing," reported Lieutenant Walker. "Shields are holding, but power consumption is higher than expected." "Same report from all ships," said the communication officer. "The Denver's Hope reports their shields are already at 60%. Jake nodded. The Council was right about one thing. The dead zone was hostile. But they had underestimated humanity's greatest strength, the ability to adapt. "Tell all ships to share shield frequency data," Jake ordered. "If we combine our knowledge, we can find the best configuration. And get all science teams working on the radiation. There must be a pattern to it." 3 hours later, they found their first surprise. The radiation wasn't random. It followed a pattern, like a code. Dr. Carl Johnson, the fleet's chief scientist, called Jake immediately. "Commander, you need to see this," Carl said. He was an older man with wild white hair and eyes that never stopped moving. "The radiation, it's not natural. Someone made it." "Made it? Who?" "I don't know. But it's designed to test, not to kill. Look." Carl showed Jake a display of wavelengths and patterns. If we adjust our shields to match this frequency, the radiation actually strengthens them instead of weakening them. Jake stared at the data. Are you saying the dead zone is some kind of test? I'm saying someone wanted to keep people out, or keep the right people in. On the edge of the fleet, a small scout ship made another discovery. Captain Ben Taylor, one of the youngest captains in the fleet at just 30 years old, detected something impossible. Admiral, I'm reading structures on the third planet of this system, Ben reported. Artificial structures, buildings. Admiral Chen's voice came through immediately. That's impossible. The Council said the dead zone has been empty for millions of years. I'm sending you the scans now, Admiral. These buildings are old, but they're intact. And Admiral, they're huge. Jake pulled up the scans on his screen. The structures were massive, each one the size of a city. They were made of a metal that their scanners couldn't identify, and they were arranged in a perfect pattern like a message written on the planet's surface. It seems, Admiral Chen said slowly, that the Council was wrong about many things. All ships adjust course. We're going to see what secrets the dead zone has been hiding. As the human fleet moved deeper into the dead zone, none of them noticed. The ancient machines hidden in the darkness beginning to wake up. The machines had been waiting for a very long time, waiting for someone worthy, waiting for someone who could survive the tests, waiting for humanity.